Hi guys, welcome to our workshop. Today I'm showing you guys how I made a ring with a long hex knot and some wood veneer.
Okay, so first of all I want to mention that this project was really challenging for me. It was the first time working with metal, so let's get right into it. First of all, I used a long hex knot. It was an old one that I used on my lathe. It was supposed to be my drive center on my lathe, but it didn't work. I kind of messed it up, so I've just decided to cut away the extra bit and use the rest of it to do the ring, the inside of the ring. And I will also be using some wood veneer that I bought from a company on eBay, I think. And yeah, so I'm gonna go on my lathe and use an angle grinder with a filing blade, I think it's called. It's just gonna file away the material until it's the right thickness. So let's go. So here you can see me just putting my hex knot on my homemade lathe. If you don't have the setup I have, you can just use a lathe and put it inside the chuck and do the same process. So I'm basically just going on my angle grinder until it's round. Okay, so now that my hex knot is round, I want to get rid of the threads inside so I could put my finger in it. So I use a dremel with a drum sander on it just to get rid of the threads. Here you can see that the metal was starting to be hot, so I used some pliers, but it didn't work, so I used a rod to hold it. It did work, but then I had the genius idea to go on the lathe and just put some spacer behind it, so the end is off, so I can just put my dremel inside and grind the inside super easily. Once that the inside was done, I had to work on the exterior to make it as thin as possible. I wanted to be in between of 0.5 and 1 millimeters. So I used a couple of techniques. This was the hardest part of the project. I didn't know what to do. So first of all, I started with the Dremel, same technique, just going over it. Didn't work really fast. I used some files, some sandpapers. Then I went back on the grinder, back to the sandpaper, the Dremel. It wasn't going as planned. So once it was thin enough for me, I've decided to just cut it on my lathe. So using my saw, I turned the lathe on and cut it enough, do like the big work, and to be sure that it's perfectly straight. And after, I went on the vise and just finish it up. When that was done, I just used a file, some sandpaper, just to knock the hard edges off, and this was the blank I had. Then I had an idea to just go on my disc sander and just push it against so I can thin down the material, and this was the easiest and fastest way to do it. So if you guys are trying this, you don't need to use the lathe and try to thin it as much. Just use this technique and it's gonna go super fast. You just have to be consistent, and this was quite hard. But once this was done, I used a file just to round it off, and this was my blank, my final blank. It was about 0.7 millimeters thick, and this was enough for me. So it's now time for the woodworking part. So here I'm just sizing the piece of veneer I want. I'm using 1 centimeters, and this piece is about 30 centimeters long. And this is to be sure that the piece is oversized of your ring. So my ring's gonna be, it's about 8 millimeters thick, and this is 1 centimeters large, so it's gonna be more than enough. So here I'm just going on my belt sander to just have a nice transition on the wood, so when I roll it there is no kinks or bump or anything. So once this is done, I went upstairs in the kitchen and put some nearly boiling water where I put the piece of wood in it so it was easy to bend, and then I just rolled it up on a round piece of tube, it could be anything, and just put some electrical tape and let it dry. When the wood is dry, you just put the middle ring inside and you roll it up until it's really tight, and you use a little bit of crazy glue just to stick the end so it won't open up, and you just hold it there until it's dry. It sets pretty quickly. Once it's dry, you just put electrical tape around it and you pour loads of crazy glue. And the crazy glue you want, it's a runny one, a bit like water, so it can get inside the wood and really bond everything together. So here I'm just pouring a lot of it. Once you're done, you just let it dry, and when it's dry, you open up, and that's your blank, your ring blank. So here I went on my belt sander and checked the measurements, but I saw some imperfections, so I went back and put more crazy glue in it, and then it was done, and I really sized it down until it was 8 millimeters thick. And when I was happy with the size, I went on my lathe and made a little jig to hold the ring on it. So it's a cone shape, so you can wedge the ring in it. So here you can see me wedging it in it. And here's a good idea to put some dabs of crazy glue, just to be sure it won't move when you're working on it. I didn't do it there, but I made a mistake. I sent it too far, so I went back and redo it, and I used some crazy glue and it was a lot easier. But here you can see I finished it with a 800 grit finish and a little bit of olive oil on it. It was just time to finish the inside, the middle part, so going through the grits, 80, 180, then I went to 800 up until 1500, and this was very smooth. I made sure to knock off the hard edges on the side and just put some olive oil after, just because I like it, and then the ring was done.
Here you go, you guys. I finally finished my ring. This was a huge learning experience. It was actually really hard. It was the first time working with metal and with my lathe. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please leave me a like. Please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next week.